This is video of Little Dry Creek after the big storm event in July of 2011. As you can see, this is the 16th green. There's the walking bridge, followed by what the 15th green looked like, as well as down by the 14th green. This was probably a 10-year flood event. The next video that you're going to see was taken right after the Smith Cole a couple years ago, where it only rained a half of an inch on property, but about 6 inches south of Cherry Hills Country Club. All that water has to go somewhere, and it goes through our property. The orientation here, this is the end of the 16th fairway. This is standing on the cart bridge off of the 15th green. This is one of the larger pinch points of the creek. As you can see, there's not a leaf out of place on the golf course, but the creek does have some considerable flooding. This is probably closer to a 5-year event that seems to happen every 6 months. So when we walked the creek with our golf course architect and the engineers, right away they pointed out that below the 14th green here, there is a pinch point. And this is creating the majority of the problem with our creek. It is very much like an accident on a highway. Cars can't get through and traffic starts to back up. The water cannot get through this section of the creek very easily, so the water starts to back up upstream. The pinch point that I am referencing is articulated pretty well in this picture between the yellow lines. This was the section that you just saw that was between the yellow lines. You can see the energy of the water wants to hit the left side of the bank. Ideally, you want that side of the bank to be physically higher than the inside. So this is an example of where it's kind of backwards. The Corps of Engineers had a philosophy 3+ decades ago of containing or channeling the water. This top graphic kind of illustrates what our creek is now, and it works great as long as the water event doesn't exceed the height of our boulders. The present day philosophy of the Corps of Engineers is more the middle and the bottom figure. It allows the water to spread out and slow down, thus creating less damage as the water races through the property. The middle figure is the recommendation by our engineers as to what we would need to do to the creek to mitigate our flooding events. So how do we accomplish something like this? This is the section of creek off of the 17th tee. What we do is we would dig a trench on the side of the boulders, then move the boulders into that trench, then cover the boulders up with the material at a 45-degree angle down to the waterline. Then, starting at that waterline, there will be fine fescue that will be about 2 feet wide. It can be managed to any height, but it likely will be about 6 to 8 inches high, then just normal rough. The purpose of this fescue is not to prevent a ball from entering the penalty area, but rather to create an aesthetically pleasing look. This is an example of the look and feel that we're trying to accomplish. So if we're going to do all this, we asked Renaissance Golf for their recommendation on if we could improve the look and playability of some of the holes while this work is going on. The highlighted areas in red are the existing, and the green section is what would be proposed. As all this started to come together, it became obvious that the recommendations were having the creek alignment tie back to its historical locations. You're going to see drone video of flying up and down the creek. We're going to start by flying upstream to where you can get a better look and feel of how these holes might play. This is a drawing from the Flynn room showing the original sketch by Flynn of the 14th hole. You can see the approach shot was initially over the creek to the green. As the drone flies upstream, I'll describe conceptually what these creek changes might look like. In this section, the creek will be farther to the right in front of the green, and the left green side bunker will go away. This is a drawing from the Flynn room of the 7th hole. And what I wanted to point out here was, see the creek line being right next to the 7th green. So as this video is flying by, you will see that the creek will be about 10 feet to the left in this section, closer to the 7th green. All of this creek work will not prevent flooding. In fact, any flooding event itself won't appear any different. The difference will be that the banks will be at a 45-degree angle versus a 90-degree angle, which will slow the velocity of the water, thus reducing the stresses of erosion and post-storm maintenance and repairs. This is Flynn's original drawing of the 15th green. As you can see, the creek was considerably wider and came quite a bit in front of the green. There will also be an acoustic element to this. As an example, between the 15th green and the 16th tee, there'll be a drop down of ripple rocks where it'll just create a nice acoustic sound. This is a picture of the Denver Country Club Creek, just giving you an example of what it might look like. It won't be this wide, but the general concept is what I'm trying to get across here. Continuing upstream, we get to the second pinch point on the property, which is right here. This bridge is going to be replaced in the exact same position. It'll be lower profile, and we're going to recycle the bricks so it has the same look and feel, but it just won't be as big. Here's again Flynn's drawing of 16, and the main point here is just to look at where the creek was in 1922. This is the 16th hole now, and the next is a proposed sketch of what it might look like. As you can see, there'll be trees planted to help conceal the cart path and the fence on the right side of the property. This is a good section to show where water has nowhere to go when the water does start to recede. Water currently just pools in the trough shown to the right of the creek. After this work is done, as the water recedes, you won't see any standing water trapped outside of the channel, stressing our turf. As we continue flying upstream, this cart bridge, again, will be replaced with a lower profile bridge, recycling the bricks, but the location of that bridge right there will approximately be about 20 feet to the left, or approximately right there. A better example is coming when the drone video flies downstream. This section, you would just see these boulders would be buried, and it would, again, this 45-degree angle of the grass down to the water line. The next part of the video will be flying downstream, where you'll kind of get a sense of the energy of the water and where the stream wants to go. Here's the Flynn drawing upside down, so you kind of get the same orientation as the drone is flying downstream. This will be the location of the new cart bridge. Here's a different perspective on that pinch point underneath the bridge. And again, the Flynn drawing of the 15th hole upside down. As you can see, the creek used to be a lot farther to the left in front of the 15th green, and that is what will happen when this creek work is done. What also helps with flood mitigation is straightening out some sections. You can see that little jog left of the trees there. That's a problem. The creek will go farther to the right, closer to the 7th green, and then meander back in front of the 14th green. This section will also have an acoustic element, and here's an example of what that might look like. The section below the 14th green all the way to the 13th green is an area where we're not going to do anything at all. The creek is more or less out of play and out of sight, so spending money in this section would just be a bit frivolous. A really good question would be how much of this entire project is maintenance and how much is aesthetics? The two concepts really go hand in hand. An argument could be made one way or another, but the flood mitigation helps with the playability of the holes, and the playability of the holes will help with the flood mitigation. All of this work will really do nothing for a storm event that is higher than a 10-year event. It's really designed to help with the 2 to 5 year flood event. One obvious question is how much is all of this going to cost? It is estimated to be about $1.5 million to complete the project. The walking bridge on 13 will be replaced with a low-profile walking bridge, again recycling the bricks, but you will not see the bridge in your line of sight for your approach shot. Conversely, look at the walking bridge on 17. It's angled correctly, it's pleasing to the eye compared to this. So it's a small change, but it's an important one. Does this project have to happen right now? No. Will we have to do it at some point? Yes. If we do it now, then we will have our very best product on display for the 2023 Amateur. For those of you that are concerned about our course's national ranking, this will certainly help with that initiative. This project has been approved by the Grounds Committee, Grounds Review, as well as the board. The USGA gave an extremely enthusiastic approval and is delighted that it will be done before the Amateur. The work on this project would take place approximately starting on November 1st and run through the end of March. No doubt the work will be disruptive for these 4 holes, but it will be done at a time where the number of rounds being played is at its lowest. Completing this work this winter will give us almost 2 full seasons of maturity, so our course will look and play its very best for the 2023 US Amateur.